Every 3 seconds, someone in the world walks into a Walmart. Every single day, over 280 million people shop there. It is the largest private employer on planet Earth, with more workers than the entire population of Slovenia. And in February of 2026, it became the first traditional retailer in history to cross $1 trillion in market value. But 60 years ago, it was a single 5 and dime store in a town so small it didn't even have a stoplight. This is the story of how Sam Walton built an empire by betting against every rule of retail, and how the company he founded is still rewriting those rules today. Sam Walton didn't start with a big idea. He started with a franchise. In 1945, Walton took out a loan from his father-in-law and bought a Ben Franklin variety store in Newport, Arkansas. It was a modest 5 and dime, the kind of shop that sold everything from thread to candy. Walton wasn't a visionary yet. He was a hustler. He drove to competitors' stores and counted their inventory by hand. He negotiated harder with suppliers than anyone else in town. And within 5 years, his single store had the highest sales of any Ben Franklin franchise in a 6-state region. Then disaster struck. His landlord refused to renew the lease. He wanted the profitable store for his own son. Walton lost the business he'd spent 5 years building, almost overnight. Most people would have taken that as a sign to quit. Walton took it as a lesson. Never build a business on land you don't control. He moved to Bentonville, Arkansas, a town so small it barely registered on a map, and opened a new store. This time, he bought the building outright. And this time, he started experimenting with an idea that most retailers thought was insane. What if you made less profit per item, but sold so much volume that you still came out ahead? Every big retailer at the time built stores in cities where the customer base was dense. Walton did the opposite. He built in small towns nobody else wanted. Towns too small to support a competitor, which meant once Walmart moved in, it had no competition at all. The first store under the Walmart name opened in Rogers, Arkansas, in 1962. It looked nothing like the polished supercenters you'd recognize today. It was bare bones, concrete floors, metal shelving, and a founder who was more obsessed with cutting costs than decorating. Getting suppliers to take Walton seriously was a constant fight. He was a nobody from a nobody town, asking major manufacturers for better prices than they gave department stores in New York and Chicago. Most said no. Walton kept asking anyway, and kept driving those hard bargains at every store he opened. Growth was brutally slow at first. By 1970, 8 years after that first store, Walmart had only opened about 30 locations, and Walton was personally in debt, having mortgaged nearly everything he owned to keep expanding. Banks were reluctant to lend to a discount retailer with thin margins and an unproven model. Walton pushed forward anyway, plowing every dollar of profit back into more stores rather than pulling out cash for himself. The turning point came when Walmart went public in 1970. The IPO raised the capital Walton needed to actually scale the model he'd spent 25 years refining. And it also made him one of the richest men in America almost overnight, though he famously kept driving the same beat-up pickup truck for years afterward. Once Walmart had capital, Walton attacked the two things most retailers ignored: logistics and technology. In 1975, he began building Walmart's own distribution centers, massive warehouses positioned so that trucks could restock any store within the region overnight. Competitors relied on third-party distributors and slower supply chains. Walmart controlled its own, which meant lower costs and shelves that were never empty. Then came the technology bet that changed retail forever. In 1987, Walmart launched what was, at the time, the largest private satellite communication system in the United States, connecting every store and distribution center in real time. While competitors were still doing inventory by hand, Walmart could see exactly what was selling in any store, in any state, instantly. That data advantage let them restock faster, cut waste, and undercut prices in ways competitors simply couldn't match. By the late 1980s, everyday low prices wasn't just a slogan, it was a supply chain so efficient that Walmart could sell items cheaper than almost anyone and still turn a profit. Small-town America, once written off by every major retailer, had made Walmart the fastest-growing company in the country. Through the 1990s, Walmart didn't just grow, it became a force that reshaped entire local economies. Small-town hardware stores, pharmacies, and grocers across America closed as Walmart supercenters opened nearby, able to underprice them on almost everything. It made Walmart the largest company in the world by revenue, and also one of the most criticized, accused of hollowing out Main Street businesses and pressuring suppliers so hard it forced some manufacturing overseas to cut costs. The company kept expanding anyway, internationally into Mexico, the UK, China, and beyond, and into new categories, groceries, pharmacies, even banking services in some markets. Sam Walton passed away in 1992, but the machine he built kept running exactly as designed, guided by the same obsession with cost-cutting and scale. Then came the threat nobody at Walmart saw coming fast enough: Amazon. As e-commerce exploded in the 2000s and 2010s, Walmart, a company built entirely around physical stores, suddenly looked vulnerable for the first time in decades. Its stock stagnated for years while investors bet everything on online retail instead. Walmart's answer was to spend billions catching up, acquiring e-commerce startups, building out its own online marketplace, and turning its thousands of physical stores into an advantage Amazon didn't have. Same-day pickup and delivery from a store, just minutes from almost every American household. But there's one detail about Walmart in 2026 that reveals exactly how the company still thinks, and it drives millions of customers up the wall every single day. Walk into almost any major retailer in America, and you can tap your phone or your contactless card to pay. Walmart is the one glaring exception. Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay, none of it works in a US Walmart. And it's not a hardware problem. Walmart has actually installed newer payment terminals that are fully capable of tap-to-pay. They've just manually switched the feature off. You can't even tap a regular contactless credit card. So why would the biggest retailer on Earth turn off a feature nearly every other store has turned on? The official answer is that Walmart built its own alternative, called Walmart Pay, along with a checkout-free option called Scan and Go, and considers those more convenient. But the real reason likely comes down to something more strategic: data and fees. When you tap a card through Apple Pay or Google Pay, that transaction is walled off. Walmart can't see much beyond the sale itself. But when you're forced to use the Walmart app to pay, the company can track exactly what you buy, how often, and build a detailed shopping profile it can use to sell targeted ads. The same Walmart Connect ad business that pulled in $6.4 billion last year. Some industry observers also point to processing fees. Routing payments through their own app potentially costs Walmart less than the fees baked into tap-to-pay transactions. It's a small, almost invisible example of the same instinct that built the company in the first place. Sam Walton counting competitors' inventory by hand to shave pennies off costs. 60 years later, Walmart is still squeezing pennies out of every transaction. It's just doing it with your data instead of a notepad. That bet paid off. In fiscal year 2026, Walmart posted $713 billion in revenue, with e-commerce sales alone reaching over $150 billion, up 24% in a single year. Walmart Connect, its advertising arm that sells ad space to brands across its website and app, pulled in $6.4 billion, growing even faster than the core business. In February 2026, Walmart crossed $1 trillion in market capitalization, the first traditional retailer in history to do it. And fittingly, the man who took over as CEO that same month, John Furner, didn't come from Wall Street or a rival tech company. He started at Walmart in 1993 as an hourly associate, working his way up over 3 decades to run the entire company, a piece of continuity that would have made Sam Walton, who insisted on calling every employee an associate and giving them a stake in the company's success, genuinely proud. From a single 5 and dime in a town with no stoplight to the largest private employer on earth and the first trillion-dollar retailer, Walmart's story isn't really about discount pricing at all. It's about a founder who was willing to bet on the towns everyone else ignored, and a company that has spent 60 years reinventing itself just in time, every time the ground shifted beneath it. If you enjoyed this deep dive, subscribe to Decoded.Brands, because every week we uncover the untold stories behind the companies that built the world we live in. Which brand should we decode next? Drop it in the comments.